Hello my friends, welcome back to RRC Restoration. So I needed a winter beater bike as I'm not taking a fully restored Ducati or VFR out in this weather. So I jumped onto eBay and found this GSF1200 that had been sitting in a shed for the past 2 years. Now as it's a winter bike, I won't be restoring it just yet, but it does need a lot of work to get it running again. So the first step is, as always, a good clean. So let's have a look at the problems I found so far. The brakes front and rear will need rebuilt. They do work, but they just don't feel right. The clutch doesn't work at all. The forks don't appear to be leaking, so for the time being I will leave them be, but I will be changing the oil to make sure the levels are correct and to ensure predictable handling. The seller guarantees me that the engine is spot on, but is a non-runner at the moment due to fueling issues. It will get a full service, valve clearances set and a compression test done, just to be sure it's all good though. All of the control surfaces feel nice and don't seem to have any issues, although they will need to be cleaned up a bit. The chain has started to go rusty and a bit tight, so it will be replaced. The sprockets however are in great condition and will be kept. The bodywork isn't in too bad a condition, it will just need a few bits and bobs painting and powder coated to tidy it up. The belly pan however could do with a repaint and some mesh fitting. Oh, and if you're wondering why my lighting looks a bit weird, one of the capacitors in the strip lights just exploded and just about gave me a heart attack. So my first job is to drain all the old fluids from the bike. Yep, I think it's safe to say that this petrol is way past its prime. No wonder the engine won't start. Before I can drop the oil and filter, I need to get the belly pan out of the way. The oil doesn't look too bad at all, judging by the colour and lack of smell from it. Just like nearly all big bikes, the oil filter is tucked away in a corner. This one is tucked away behind the manifold, making access nice and awkward and messy. As you all know, I have the proper chain splitting tool for this job, but using the grinder is quicker, easier and much more fun. Before I can remove the carbs, I need to move the airbox back as much as possible to give me clearance to wrestle the carbs out of the frame. air filter doesn't look particularly dirty, although I do notice that it hasn't been oiled. Normally I would just replace the control cables, but these ones are actually in great condition. They are just a bit tight from sitting. So what I'm going to do is show you a neat little trick for lubricating them. So what I've done here is drill 3 holes in the bottom of one of my tubs, and I'm going to place the cables in said holes and then seal it with hot glue. This will act as a reservoir for the lubricating oil, so then I can just set the setup aside and let gravity do the work for me. So as you can see, super simple setup and works a treat. Although it does take a little while for the oil to make its way down, especially in colder temperatures like we have here in Scotland 90% of the time. Now, let's get these carbs torn apart. It's not actually as bad as I was expecting in here. Just a little bit of rusty sludge. Well, that's the number 1 carb all stripped down. Now, let's get it out of the way and strip the other 3. And since they're all identical, let's just skip ahead a bit. I think it may be time to invest in a bigger ultrasonic cleaner. Now that the carb bodies are spotless clean, it only makes sense to fit brand new jets and needles too, as I have no way of knowing how many hours of running are on the original jets and needles, and they could be slightly worn. Now, in the interest of progress and not boring you too much, I'm going to yet again jump ahead, as the rebuild is exactly the reverse of the teardown. The air filter will be dry by now, so let's get it ready for use by re-oiling it. Now I'm going to check the valve clearances. It's a very simple job, but one that's made much easier being done with the carbs and associated cables removed. Now let's grab a clearance spec from my ever-growing collection of workshop manuals. Well, the intake valves in cylinder 1 are gapped perfectly. Sadly, the same can't be said for the exhaust valves though. They're just a bit too tight, so let's fix that now. So that's cylinder 1 dealt with. Now to sort out the other 12 valves. Well, that's the valve train set back to factory spec. Most of the clearances were spot on, just a couple of tight exhaust valves that had to be dealt with. But now I can get the covers back on. It's always good practice to check spark plug gaps, even on brand new plugs. Now let's get the cables back in place. As you can see, all of the oil has made its way through the cables and out the bottom, so now they will be perfectly lubricated. There's no nice way of doing this, it's just a case of grab it and rip the cables out. Well, now it's time to wrestle the carbs and airbox back into place. To finish off the air and fuel delivery system, let's get the nice clean K&N filter back into place. Well, my friends, as much as it pains me to say this, I'm going to have to end the video here for the moment, as I'm still waiting on some parts I'll need to finish this bike off. But not to worry, there won't be a long wait for the next episode, where I'll be firing up the Bandit for the first time, balancing the carbs, and whatever other little jobs need done, as well as freshening up its appearance, and hopefully there will be time for a test ride too. But for now, it's almost midnight here, so I'm going to go and thaw the car out, head home, and get this video edited and released, and I hope you will all enjoy it. See you all again soon.